Nguyen Trai, 1380 to 1442, also known by his pen name Trai, was one of the most outstanding figures in the history of Vietnam. He was a politician, military strategist, diplomat, poet, and cultural scholar, a patriotic intellectual of exceptional talent who lived during the late Tran and early Le dynasties. Born into a family with a strong tradition of learning and deep patriotism, Nguyen Trai was renowned from a young age for his intelligence. He passed the imperial examinations early and always nurtured the ideal of serving the nation and its people. His life was closely tied to the resistance against the Ming invaders, especially in his role as a brilliant strategist for the Lam Son uprising led by Le Loi. He was the mastermind behind numerous sharp military and diplomatic strategies, and the author of the famous Great Proclamation upon the pacification of the Wu, Binh Ngo Proclamation, a powerful declaration of independence that expressed the ideology of putting the people at the center and the spirit of national self-determination. Although his political career experienced many ups and downs and ended tragically with the unjust Lychee Garden case, Nguyen Trai's reputation and contributions have continued to shine throughout history. He was later exonerated and honored as a national hero and world cultural figure, recognized by UNESCO in 1980 on the 600th anniversary of his birth. Nguyen Trai was not only a key figure who helped Le Loi establish the nation, but also left behind a vast legacy of literature and thought, profoundly influencing future generations. His life and work symbolize the intellect, loyalty, and passionate desire for freedom and independence of the Vietnamese people. Meeting Le Loi, the beginning of a national salvation career. At the beginning of the 15th century, after the Ho dynasty was defeated by the Ming invaders, the country fell into misery. The people suffered extreme hardship, and the foreign aggressors ruthlessly massacred and exploited the Vietnamese. In the face of such devastation, patriotic uprisings emerged across the land, but most failed due to a lack of brilliant leadership and long-term strategy. In that context, Nguyen Trai, a man of experience, deep understanding of the times, and harboring a profound sense of national and familial duty, quietly searched for an opportunity to devote himself to the nation. In 1417, Nguyen Trai decided to travel to Lam Son, Phan Hoa, to offer his service to Le Loi, a nobleman with great ambition who was gathering forces to rise against the Ming. That meeting was not only a convergence of two like-minded individuals, but also a historic turning point, marking a profound bond between two men, one a resolute leader of resistance, the other a passionate, strategic intellectual. Nguyen Trai quickly became Le Loi's top advisor, directly involved in devising military strategies, drafting diplomatic documents, and developing the ideology of humaneness to rally the people's hearts. He understood that to defeat a powerful enemy, one could not rely solely on weapons, but had to win the people's support, appeal to righteousness, and gain consensus across all social strata. From the very beginning, he recognized the true nature of the Ming invaders as taking advantage of a nation in chaos to plunder and act brutally, and he charted a path of resistance based not only on force, but on moral justice. He helped Le Loi strengthen forces, expand territory, and ignite patriotism among the people. Thanks to Nguyen Trai, the Lam Son insurgent army evolved from a scattered group of peasant rebels into an organized, idealistic, and strategically sound resistance force with great inner strength. Nguyen Trai was not only a strategist, but also a confidant of Le Loi. In the most difficult moments, he remained by Le Loi's side, offering encouragement and sustaining faith in ultimate victory. He once wrote in the Quan Trung Tu Ment Tup proclamations from the military headquarters, "The foundation of righteousness lies in bringing peace to the people. The military's mission is merely to eliminate cruelty." That statement was not only the guiding principle of the Lam Son uprising, but also the lifelong philosophy of Nguyen Trai, a scholar who placed the people at the heart of his ideals and justice as the core of his existence. Brilliant strategies in the resistance against the Ming. After officially joining Le Loi, Nguyen Trai quickly became the strategic brain of the Lam Son insurgent army. He was not only well-versed in military tactics, geography, and astronomy, but more importantly, he understood the will of the people. In the context of the brutal Ming occupation, with widespread public resentment mixed with fear, Nguyen Trai used the power of righteousness to turn fear into faith, transforming scattered peasant groups into a large-scale organized resistance movement. Strategy of the few defeating the many, the weak overcoming the strong. With Nguyen Trai's counsel, the Lam Son forces avoided direct confrontation with the Ming army, which had overwhelming numbers and superior weaponry. Instead, he advocated for flexible guerrilla tactics, making use of the rugged terrain, forests and swamps of Thanh and Nghệ, to set traps, strike quickly, retreat swiftly, and exhaust the enemy's strength. Raids on garrisons, cutting supply lines, and sowing confusion within the Ming ranks all bore the mark of his strategic genius. Guerrilla warfare at the time was not only a battle tactic, but also a psychological and ideological strategy. Nguyen Trai understood that the people are the root of a nation, and the will of the people is the root of success. Therefore, beyond fighting the enemy, he prioritized comforting the people, organizing relief for war-torn areas, recruiting talent, and stirring patriotic spirit among the population. Persuading surrender, dividing the enemy, winning by diplomacy over force. One of Nguyen Trai's most silent yet crucial victories was drafting hundreds of letters urging Ming generals, officials, and soldiers to surrender. Rather than inciting violence, he skillfully employed arguments rooted in humanity, morality, and compassion to move the enemy. Many Ming generals, after reading his letters, were moved. Some withdrew without fighting, while others covertly assisted the insurgents. Notable examples include persuading Zhang Fu, Mu Sheng, and convincing Han Chinese garrisons stationed locally to return home and abandon their colonial ambitions. Nguyen Trai once said, "To win without fighting is the highest strategy." This thinking was ahead of its time, closely aligned with Sun Tzu's concept of winning without battle. Battles marked by military brilliance. Under Nguyen Trai's strategic leadership, the Lam Son army gradually regained control over important territories. Key battles include the Battle of Totong, Chukdong, 1426, defeated 50,000 Ming troops, annihilated thousands of elite soldiers, shattering enemy morale. The victory at Chilang, Sunggang, 1427, a decisive battle that crushed reinforcements led by Liu Tang, leading to the complete encirclement and surrender of remaining Ming forces. These victories were not merely military triumphs, but victories of ideology, righteousness, and the people's will. Nguyen Trai always upheld the principle, do not pursue the enemy to annihilation, but defeat cruelty with great righteousness and replace brute force with humane virtue. Ending in peace, preserving national dignity and humanity. After the Ming suffered complete defeat and Commander Wang Tong surrendered, Nguyen Trai did not push for further bloodshed. Representing the lay court, he negotiated terms for the Ming army to withdraw while treating prisoners and captured generals with dignity and respect. This was a deeply humane and noble act, embodying his philosophy of governing the country with compassion. Importantly, the victory of Nguyen Trai and Le Loi was not only a military success, but also a triumph of intellect, morality, and national spirit. It became a model for future Vietnamese resistance wars, fighting foreign invaders while preserving traditional ethics, always placing human dignity at the forefront. Binh Ngo, an immortal Declaration of Independence. After nearly 10 years of persistent and arduous resistance, marked by immense sacrifices from the people and the strategic leadership of Le Loi and Nguyen Trai, Dai Viet finally regained complete independence from the Ming invaders. More than just a resounding military victory, it was a comprehensive triumph of righteousness, of the people's will, and of national intellect. To crown this great resistance with a declaration worthy of history, Nguyen Trai composed the immortal work, Binh Ngo, a political masterpiece, a proud proclamation that glorifies the Vietnamese nation. Born in a sacred historical moment, the Binh Ngo was issued by Nguyen Trai on behalf of Le Loi in 1428, immediately after the complete victory of the insurgent forces and the official withdrawal of Ming troops from Dai Viet. At that time, the nation was filled with the joy of peace, but also scarred by the pain of years of humiliating enslavement and devastating war. Nguyen Trai understood that the nation needed a declaration, not just for the enemy, but for itself, affirming its spirit, sovereignty, and dignity. Thus, the Binh Ngo was not merely a victory announcement, but a proud declaration of independence, a proclamation to the world that Dai Viet was a sovereign, civilized nation that would never submit to any foreign force. Masterful structure, rigorous logic, and rich emotion. The Binh Ngo has a clear four-part structure, like a masterful speech, affirming the eternal truth of national independence. Right from the opening, Nguyen Trai asserted a profound truth of Vietnamese identity. The foundation of righteousness lies in bringing peace to the people. The military's mission is to eliminate cruelty. Our land of Dai Viet has long been a land of civility, its mountains and rivers defined, its customs distinct between North and South. These words thunder like a proclamation, firmly affirming that Dai Viet was an independent nation, with a long-standing history, culture, political system, and territory equal to any great power. Here, Nguyen Trai did not speak with vague sentiment, but reasoned with logic, historical truth, and moral authority. His vision and ideology far surpassed the feudal standards of his time, condemning the Ming's crimes, unmasking the invaders. After affirming national sovereignty, Nguyen Trai denounced the brutal crimes of the Ming aggressors with fierce, evocative language. They took advantage of our country in chaos. Traitorous collaborators sought glory by betraying their people, roasting our people on the fire of savagery, burying our children in pits of disaster. The Ming's crimes were not only theft of wealth, but also genocide, the oppression of the people, and the destruction of a nation's culture and soul. These powerful lines not only conveyed pain, but also served as historical testimony to the world, justifying the righteousness of the Lam Son Uprising, praising the glorious resistance and victory. The third part reaches an emotional peak, where Nguyen Trai recounts the arduous resistance and the resounding triumph. Enemy generals captured, fortresses destroyed, trenches filled with bones, swords and spears stained with torrents of blood. From a position of weakness, the Lam Son army gradually turned the tide, toppling one of the most powerful military forces of the North. Battles such as Tot Dong, Chuk Dong, and Chi Lung Sungang are highlighted with bold, impassioned prose that allows the reader to relive those heroic moments. Here, Nguyen Trai did not glorify individuals, but celebrated the collective power of the people, of favorable timing, geography, and humaneness. This made the victory not just a dynastic success, but a triumph of the entire Vietnamese nation. Ending with a vision of peace and humanity. Unlike typical indictments that close with hatred, the Binh Ngo ends with a yearning for peace, stability, and national restoration. From now, the nation shall be enduring, the rivers and mountains shall be renewed. The tone shifts from majestic to tender, as if soothing the nation's past wounds and opening a new future for all Dai Viet's people. This conclusion reflects Nguyen Trai's political philosophy, winning battles to bring peace, building the nation to serve the people, not for vengeance or aggression. The eternal value of the Binh Ngo Dai. The Binh Ngo Dai is not only the pinnacle of classical Vietnamese political writing, but also the first true declaration of independence with a modern spirit. It transcends its time, becoming a guiding light for all later struggles for national defense, from resisting the French and Americans to safeguarding sovereignty in peacetime. Through this masterpiece, Nguyen Trai elevated the national ideology into a profound political philosophy, placing the people at the core, grounding governance in humaneness, wielding justice as a weapon, and striving for peace as the ultimate goal. The tragedy of Nguyen Trai's final days and his unjust fate. Nguyen Trai, a man who devoted his entire life to the nation, from the days of foreign domination to the moment of restored peace, should have spent his final years in serenity, honored by the court and the people. Yet history cast a dark shadow over his last days, when he became the victim of one of the most grievous miscarriages of justice in Vietnamese history, the late Chi Vien case. From a central figure of the court to a fateful turning point. After helping Le Loi secure independence, Nguyen Trai retired for a time, living a modest and simple life, uninterested in fame or power. However, during the reign of King Le Loi, Le Loi's son, he was summoned back to the capital to serve the nation. With unwavering loyalty and the ideal of serving the people and the country, he once again dedicated himself to state affairs, advising the king to rule with virtue and compassion. But in the royal court, rife with hidden rivalries among noble factions, officials, and royal relatives, Nguyen Trai's integrity and righteousness became an obstacle in the eyes of many. He joined no faction, flattered no one, and firmly upheld his stance of loyalty to the king, love for the nation, which drew resentment and plots against him. The turning point came in 1442, when King Le Loi, on a royal tour to the northeast, stopped by Nguyen Trai's residence at Lake Chi Vien, in present-day Bac Ninh. There, the king suddenly died during the night, shocking the entire court. Under pressure from hidden powers and fear of political upheaval, the court hastily concluded that Nguyen Trai and his concubine, Lady Nguyen Thi Lo, had murdered the king. In a short time, a sentence of execution for 3 generations of his family was issued, without fair trial, without solid evidence. Nguyen Trai, the hero who had given his whole life to the nation, was executed along with his entire family, in a tragic and unjust end. A case that moved even heaven and earth. History records that even the common people did not believe he had murdered the king. From folk memory to intellectual circles, from ancient historians to modern scholars, most agreed that Nguyen Trai was a man of absolute loyalty, a virtuous patriot who could never have committed treason. Later documents suggested that King Le Loi may have died of sudden illness, and that his stay at Lake Chi Vien had been exploited by political forces at court to frame Nguyen Trai and eliminate him from power. Regardless, his unjust death remains a painful wound in Vietnam's historical record. A man who lived for the people, wrote each line for the nation, spilled ink out of patriotic love, was condemned by the very dynasty he helped to establish. Vindication, a delayed but well-deserved restoration of honor. It was not until 1464, 22 years after his death, that King Le Loi, regarded as a wise ruler of the later Le dynasty, issued an official edict to fully clear Nguyen Trai's name, restore his honor, and order the construction of temples in his memory. The king famously declared, "Uk Trai's heart shines through the ages like a star." This was a belated redemption, but it served as the public recognition by the court and history of Nguyen Trai's steadfast loyalty, compassion, and righteousness. The tragedy of a great man, a lesson for the ages. Nguyen Trai's tragedy was not merely the injustice suffered by one man, but a profound historical lesson about the cruelty of power and the need for justice and transparency. His life, from the heights of glory to the depths of injustice, proves a timeless truth. Those who achieve great things, who carry great vision, often face equally great trials, sometimes misunderstanding, even death. Yet the light from Nguyen Trai's life continues to shine in the soul of the Vietnamese people, the light of intellect, compassion, and sacrifice. And though unjustly executed, he lives on forever, not as a victim, but as an eternal symbol of loyalty, righteousness, and greatness. Legacy for eternity. Nguyen Trai was not only a historic figure with glorious achievements in the resistance against the Ming invaders, but also a refined embodiment of Vietnamese cultural spirit. He left behind a vast legacy of thought, literature, ethics, and politics, values that transcend time. He did not live only in his own era, but continues to live in the hearts of generations of Vietnamese people, as a heroic spirit, a source of inspiration, and a shining example of noble character. The idea of benevolence and righteousness, foundation for governance and peace. The central philosophy throughout Nguyen Trai's life was Nung Gia, benevolence and righteousness. Unlike many wartime strategists who focused solely on military tactics, Nguyen Trai always began with pacifying the people, placing the will of the people at the core of every political action. He once wrote, "The foundation of righteousness lies in bringing peace to the people. The military's mission is to eliminate cruelty." This was not only the opening line of Binh Ngo Proclamation, but also his life philosophy and statecraft, an ideology far ahead of its time. To him, war was not for destroying the enemy, but to restore peace for the people. Being a king was not about power, but about governing with virtue. This philosophy became a core value in Vietnam's political thought, influencing enlightened rulers like Le Thanh and many generations of scholars. An invaluable literary treasure. Beyond being an exceptional political and military leader, Nguyen Trai is also celebrated as one of the greatest writers of Vietnam's medieval literature. He left behind numerous works of high artistic and philosophical value, notably Binh Ngo, a resounding declaration of national independence, Quoc Thi Tup, the first poetry collection written in Chute Nom, paving the way for national literature, expressing a soulful voice close to nature and common life. Uk Tup, a collection of Han Chinese poems reflecting morality, compassion, and empathy for human fate. Quan Chung Tu Ment Tup, a compilation of letters persuading enemy surrender and diplomatic documents rich in humanity and intellect. His poetry and prose are not ornate or flamboyant, but simple, profound, and full of life philosophy and deep love for the people. At times, he was a romantic poet in harmony with nature. White storks fly over the deserted riverbank. The shadow of the mountains fades into the mirrored water. At other times, he was a Confucian scholar anguished by the people's suffering. Loving the people tears my heart apart. I vow to use my humble talent to bring peace to all homes. His literary heritage not only enriches the Vietnamese language, but also weaves together ethics, culture, and patriotism across generations. A great character. A timeless example. Nguyen Trai's life is an epic, not just because he helped establish a dynasty, but because he lived with integrity, even in the most harrowing circumstances. Falsely accused and executed along with 3 generations of his family, his name, once vindicated, did not fade, but instead became a beacon for future generations. His character became a model for ancient scholars and modern intellectuals, patriotic, compassionate, loyal but not blind, honest, idealistic, and willing to sacrifice for truth. Nguyen Trai can be seen as the ideal model of a Vietnamese person, intelligent, humane, resilient, and humble. Honored nationally and internationally. In recognition of his immense contributions and timeless values, in 1980, on the 600th anniversary of his birth, UNESCO named Nguyen Trai a world cultural celebrity. This was a great pride not only for the Vietnamese people, but for all humanity, as an Eastern mind rich in humanism was honored worldwide. His name has been given to schools, streets, temples, and major cultural works, as a reminder that while a person may pass away, their ideas and dignity live forever. Conclusion: a silent yet eternal star. Though his life ended in injustice, Nguyen Trai remains a shining torch in the nation's journey. His legacy lies not only in his writings, works, or military victories, but in his humanist political thinking, moral values, and enduring national spirit passed down through 1,000 years. Looking at Nguyen Trai, we see not only the image of a great man of the Le dynasty, but also a part of the Vietnamese soul, resilient, compassionate, profound, and loyal to the homeland. Vietnam's history has honored many outstanding heroes, but Nguyen Trai stands as a truly exceptional figure. He was not only a brilliant strategist, not only a resistance hero, not only a great cultural scholar, but also a living symbol of the ideals: loyalty to the king, love for the nation, compassion for the people. His life was a rare fusion of extraordinary intellect, selfless heart, and unyielding integrity. From a talented Confucian scholar, he committed himself to the national resistance. Amid the flames of war, he not only wielded the pen to devise strategies, but also used his words to stir hearts, calling upon the enemy to lay down arms and awakening the people to rise in defense of their homeland. The victories of the Lam Son Uprising, the immortal text Binh Ngo, and his profound philosophy of humaneness all bear the indelible mark of Nguyen Trai. Yet in a cruel twist of fate, this hero met an unjust and tragic death. But death could not extinguish the light. On the contrary, the light from Nguyen Trai's life shone even brighter after his name was cleared. From the ashes of injustice, he transformed into an eternal flame in the heart of the nation, a flame of intellect, righteousness, and compassion. More than 600 years have passed since his birth, yet Nguyen Trai's name lives on through time. He is the pride of the Vietnamese people, a shining gem in the treasure trove of human intellect, and living proof of a universal truth. A virtuous talent may be buried for a time, but never forgotten by history. To remember Nguyen Trai is not merely to honor a man, but to recall the indomitable national spirit, the value of justice and humanity, and above all, to heed a deeply human reminder. Live for what is right, even in the face of the harshest adversity, for truth will always be restored and the light will forever show the way.